So New World finally released, and so far my experience has been fairly mixed. This video is just a quick overview of my launch impressions for the game, and I'm currently working on a full Journey to Max Level series for New World. I just had a lot of messages asking if it's worth jumping into New World right now, so I thought I'd record this really quick just to give you guys some idea of what to expect. Now, every MMORPG launch you can expect crazy queue times and maxed out servers, so this didn't surprise me too much. Each server in New World can only contain a max of 2,000 players online, so with this being a fairly hyped MMO, this resulted in some people being in queue for over 12 hours. Some servers had over 20,000 players waiting in queue. I haven't seen queue times like this since World of Warcraft Classic. Shortly after launch, Amazon deployed some new servers with next to no queue times and said that players could transfer servers for free at some point within the next 2 weeks. So me personally, I chose a less populated server and only had an hour or so waiting in queue. As for server locations, you've got EU Central, NA East and West, South America and Asia Pacific servers. Now, I don't know what the hell is up with Amazon's servers, but my ping for New World is double that of any other online game. Typically when I connect to Europe I get 180 to 200 ping, with New World it's over 400. Connecting to Australia usually 100 to 120 ping, in New World it's 250. It doesn't make sense, and this has been an issue I've had with the game any time I've played betas in the past. I just kinda assumed this would be fixed for launch, but it hasn't. New World objectively has some of the worst servers I've seen for an MMO, and there's also no SEA, Chinese or Korean servers, so half the world's MMO population has to connect to Australia. Going into New World, I was actually really excited for it. I haven't played or tested this game since the beta test in August 2020. I've done my best to avoid any content creation surrounding it, and I wanted to go in somewhat blind to not optimize the fun out of the launch experience. Once I finally got past the queue and into the game, it felt great to be back in the world of Aeternum. I've said it many times in the past, but the absolute best thing about New World is being in the world. Visually, the game looks absolutely beautiful in places, and I love the sense of scale from the trees and the buildings. In the time since I last played, I genuinely missed just wandering around the world and exploring. Something I did notice pretty quickly was that killing mobs gives very little XP compared to what it used to, and it became apparent that mob grinding is no longer an intended way for players to level up in New World. I noticed a lot of quests, and the user interface has been updated since last year to accommodate for taking on multiple quests at once. It seems like progression in New World is now much more similar to a traditional questing theme park MMO, although you can get some decent supplementary XP from crafting and gathering too. For the first few hours, I actually found it weird coming to terms with the fact that New World doesn't have a sprint. It just feels like the game should have one, and I found myself constantly pressing shift out of muscle memory over and over only to dodge roll instead. Perhaps the game had a sprint before, but it was removed or reworked, I can't remember, but whatever it is, it feels unnatural for some reason. The thing I've enjoyed the most about New World on launch day was getting distracted by the rare gathering resources whilst questing and leveling multiple crafting skills. With progression being centered around questing, you're running around all over the place all of the time, so if you level gathering at the same time, finding these resources serves as a nice dopamine hit to get you through the repetitive and mundane questing. One thing that has surprised me so far is how poor the game's performance has been. Frame rate tanks pretty hard whenever other players are around, and if there's multiple melee players trying to hit the same mob, it's an absolute clusterfuck of desync and body blocking that you'd expect from a game still in alpha. Additionally, some factioner quests appear to be bugged. The game will give you a location to go kill some mobs, you go there and there's no mobs to be found. But by far the biggest thing that's annoyed me on launch day so far was that if you kill a skinnable creature such as a puma, wolf or elk, another player can immediately skin your kill even if they contributed no damage. So at quest locations with scarce mob spawns, some players were just waiting around to steal skins, and it was absolutely infuriating. How this didn't get fixed during the game's multiple testing phases is beyond me. In an open PvP game this would make sense, as you could flag up and get revenge, but New World isn't that kind of game. So a few people have asked me if it's worth jumping into New World now. Currently the Steam reviews are mixed, and a lot of people are pissed off with the launch issues, which is usually the case for MMO launches. Personally, I think if you're the kind of player that enjoys games like RuneScape or Albion Online, where you get a lot of satisfaction from the looting, collecting and crafting elements of MMOs, I'd say New World seems like the kind of game you'd enjoy. Pick a server without crazy queue times, and if your friends are on a different server, just transfer to them later on. If you're someone that only enjoys endgame PvP and PvE and want to rush past the leveling, you might have a stressful time fighting other players for mobs and resources right now. The combat can also feel very tedious at times. But ultimately, we don't really get big MMORPG releases too often. This is probably the biggest MMO release in years, so regardless of if New World is your cup of tea long term, I do think it's worth enjoying that rare new MMO feeling that you'll certainly get from playing it if you haven't already seen and experienced everything from the previous beta tests. So far I've went into New World fully knowing that it's an extremely flawed game with a stunning and immersive world. I'm well aware that the endgame probably won't last longer than a few weeks currently. The PvP is absolute dog shit, and there's no reason to rush to endgame, as the majority of the enjoyment seems to come from exploration, life skills and the journey. What I am betting on, and my main motivation for even getting to endgame, is that over the next few years New World will improve a lot, and eventually become a really good MMORPG as players give more feedback and the issues the game has are fixed. I see New World as this generation's Elder Scrolls Online. It will get shit on heavily at launch, and rightly so, but over the years the game will improve and be considered a solid top 5 or top 3 MMO. And whilst the game has a lot of room for improvement, I want to be there to experience its progress and take on that new content and improvements as they're added over the next few years. So if you share my mindset and go in with tempered expectations, then I'd say yes, give New World a try now. At the very least, it's a relaxing MMO that's perfect to grind away with whilst watching streams or movies on your other monitor. Additionally, MMO launch hype is always fun to be a part of and look back on, despite the many frustrations that are always part of that. But that's pretty much it for my quick launch impressions. Like I said, I'm currently working on a full leveling series to max for New World, followed by a full review once I feel like I've seen everything the game has to offer. This was just a quick low effort video I wanted to get out quickly to share my thoughts. As always, let me know about your launch experiences with New World in the comments below, as well as your early pros and cons about the game. Shout out to Exitlag for improving my ping whilst connecting to the god-awful New World servers, and social media on screen. Thanks for watching, I hope you all had a successful day, and I'll see you again really soon.